Imagine holding your smartphone and suddenly realizing that 2,000 years ago, someone held a device just as sophisticated. Sounds impossible, right? What if I told you that ancient civilizations had computers that predicted astronomical events with stunning accuracy? That they built automatic doors, vending machines, and even analog calculators that wouldn't be reinvented for another 1,000 years? History books tell us that our ancestors were primitive, living in a world of simple tools and basic technology. But that's not the whole story. Scattered across museums and archaeological sites around the world are devices so advanced, so eerily modern, that scientists are still struggling to understand how they were built. Today, we're diving into 6 ancient inventions that will completely shatter everything you thought you knew about the past. These aren't just curiosities. They're proof that human ingenuity has always been far more advanced than we give it credit for. Stick around, because number 3 will absolutely blow your mind. Device number 1, the Antikythera Mechanism. Let's start with what many scientists call the world's first computer, a device so impossibly complex that when it was discovered, experts initially thought it must be a hoax. In 1901, Greek sponge divers were exploring a shipwreck off the coast of Antikythera, a small island between mainland Greece and Crete. Among the statues and pottery, they found a corroded lump of bronze and wood that no one could identify. It sat in a museum for decades, dismissed as unimportant, until an archaeologist named Valerios Stays noticed something extraordinary. Gears. Lots of them. This wasn't just any collection of gears. The Antikythera Mechanism, as it came to be known, contained at least 30 precision bronze gears. Some historians believe the original device had as many as 72, all working together in a system of such sophistication that nothing remotely comparable would exist for another 1,000 years. But here's where it gets truly mind-blowing. This wasn't some mysterious artifact with an unknown purpose. Scientists have figured out exactly what it did, and the answer is staggering. The Antikythera Mechanism was an analog computer designed to predict astronomical positions and eclipses decades in advance. It tracked the movements of the sun, moon, and planets with remarkable accuracy. It predicted solar and lunar eclipses. It even accounted for the irregular orbit of the moon, using an ingenious system that ancient Greek astronomers shouldn't have known about. When you turn a crank on the side of the device, dials on the front and back would rotate, displaying positions of celestial bodies, the phases of the moon, and even the dates of the ancient Olympic Games. It was essentially an astronomical calculator housed in a wooden box about the size of a shoebox, with inscriptions covering nearly every surface explaining how to use it. The level of miniaturization and mechanical complexity is astonishing. The gear teeth are just 1.5 millimeters long, requiring incredible precision metalworking. The device uses differential gearing, a technology we associate with modern car transmissions that historians believe wasn't invented until the 16th century, dating back to around 100 BCE. This device represents knowledge and engineering capabilities that seem to have vanished from human civilization for over a millennium. After the fall of the Roman Empire, mechanical technology regressed so dramatically that when clockmakers in medieval Europe finally began creating astronomical clocks in the 14th century, they were essentially reinventing technology that the ancient Greeks had already perfected. The Antikythera Mechanism raises profound questions. Who built it? How many others existed? What other advanced technologies did ancient civilizations possess that we've lost to time? The device is so advanced that some researchers have jokingly wondered if it could be evidence of time travel or ancient alien contact, before realizing that the truth is even more fascinating. Our ancestors were capable of creating technology far beyond what we've given them credit for. Today, modern scientists use X-ray, computed tomography, and 3D modeling to study the mechanism's inner workings. They've created working replicas and continue to decode the thousands of characters inscribed on its surfaces. Every new discovery reveals additional layers of sophistication. The Antikythera Mechanism isn't just an ancient device. It's a humbling reminder that innovation isn't the exclusive domain of modern times. Device number 2, the Baghdad Battery. Now, let's travel from ancient Greece to ancient Mesopotamia, where an even more controversial discovery awaits. One that suggests ancient peoples may have harnessed electricity over 2,000 years before Benjamin Franklin flew his famous kite. In 1936, While excavating ruins near Baghdad, Iraq, German archaeologist Wilhelm Koenig discovered a curious clay jar about 5 inches tall. Inside was a copper cylinder, and inside that cylinder was an iron rod. The rod showed evidence of corrosion from an acidic substance. Koenig proposed a radical theory. This wasn't just a storage jar. It was an ancient battery. At first, the idea seemed preposterous. Conventional history tells us that electricity wasn't understood or harnessed until the 18th century. But when researchers recreated the device using similar materials and filled it with an acidic solution like vinegar or grape juice, something remarkable happened. It generated an electric current, not a huge amount, roughly half a volt to 2 volts, but enough to create a tingling sensation if you touch the terminals, and certainly enough to electroplate small objects. Multiple Baghdad batteries have been discovered, all dating to the Parthian or Sasanian periods, roughly 150 BCE to 650 CE. Their actual purpose remains hotly debated among historians and archaeologists. Some researchers believe they were used for electroplating, coating cheaper metals with gold or silver to create jewelry and decorative objects. Ancient texts don't describe the electroplating process we use today, but they do mention techniques for gilding objects that may have involved electrical currents. Others have suggested they might have been used for medicinal purposes, ancient shock therapy to treat pain. Still others believe they could have been used in religious ceremonies, perhaps to create tingling sensations that would seem miraculous to believers touching sacred objects. Skeptics argue that the jars may simply have been used to store papyrus scrolls, with the metal components serving as protective cylinders. The acidic corrosion could have come from the scrolls themselves degrading over time. This debate continues because we lack clear documentary evidence explaining how these objects were actually used. But here's what we know for certain. When constructed according to the archaeological specifications and filled with an electrolyte solution, these devices do generate electricity, whether or not that was their intended purpose. The fact remains that ancient peoples possessed all the necessary components and knowledge to create primitive batteries if they chose to. The Baghdad battery represents one of those tantalizing historical mysteries that challenges our linear narrative of technological progress. It suggests that ancient peoples were experimenting with natural phenomena and developing practical applications in ways we're only beginning to appreciate. Perhaps the most important lesson isn't whether these specific jars were batteries, but rather that we should remain open to the possibility that ancient innovations may have existed in forms we don't yet recognize. Device number 3. The automatic doors of Hero of Alexandria. If you've ever walked through automatic doors at a supermarket and thought you were experiencing modern convenience, prepare to have your mind blown. Automatic doors existed in the 1st century CE, and they were powered by some of the most ingenious engineering principles ever devised. Hero of Alexandria, a Greek engineer and mathematician who lived around 10 to 70 CE, was essentially the Tony Stark of the ancient world. He invented the first documented steam engine, created the first wind power machine, and designed theatrical devices that seemed like pure magic to ancient audiences. But perhaps his most impressive feat was designing automatic doors for temples, doors that would open seemingly by divine power when priests lit fires on altars. Here's how it worked. When a priest lit a fire on an altar outside the temple, the heat would cause air to expand in a hidden chamber beneath the altar. This expanding air would push water from one container into another through a system of pipes. The water's weight would pull on ropes connected to the door's hinges through a system of pulleys and counterweights. Slowly, majestically, the temple doors would swing open, apparently moved by the gods themselves. When the fire went out, the process reversed. The air cooled, creating a partial vacuum that would suck the water back to the pipes, and the doors would close again. This wasn't just a party trick. Hero's automatic doors represented a sophisticated understanding of pneumatics, hydraulics, thermodynamics, and mechanical engineering. He was manipulating invisible forces, air pressure, thermal expansion, and fluid dynamics to create visible, dramatic effects. In an era when most people had no scientific framework for understanding such phenomena, this technology would have seemed genuinely supernatural. What makes Hero's work even more remarkable is that he documented his inventions in detailed treatises. His book Pneumatica describes not just the automatic doors, but dozens of other devices, automated puppet theaters that performed entire plays, automatic dispensers for holy water, organs powered by windmills, and even a primitive vending machine that dispensed sacred water when you insert a coin. That vending machine, by the way, worked through another brilliant mechanism. Your coin would drop onto one end of a lever, which would lift a valve allowing water to flow. The coin's weight would hold the valve open temporarily before it slid off the lever, closing the valve again. It's the same basic principle used in mechanical vending machines for centuries afterward. Hero's inventions demonstrate something profound. Ancient engineers understood complex physical principles and could manipulate them to create automated systems. These weren't crude mechanisms. They were sophisticated machines incorporating multiple engineering disciplines. The automatic doors alone required expertise in metalworking, rope and pulley systems, fluid containers with proper seals, thermodynamics, and precise calibration. Yet here's the tragic part. Most of Hero's inventions were seen as curiosities or tools for impressing temple visitors rather than as practical technologies to be developed further. Ancient societies had the engineering knowledge to create automated systems, but they lacked the economic incentives and philosophical frameworks that would later drive the Industrial Revolution. It would take nearly 1,800 years before automatic doors became commonplace. And when they did, they were based on essentially the same principles Hero had pioneered centuries earlier. Device number 4, the Antikythera Mechanism's cousin, the Byzantine sundial calendar. While the Antikythera Mechanism is the most famous ancient computational device, it wasn't alone. Hidden in museum collections around the world are other examples of ancient calculating machines that reveal sophisticated astronomical and mathematical knowledge. One extraordinary example is a Byzantine sundial calendar discovered in the early 20th century, dating to around the 5th or 6th century CE. This device is a masterpiece of miniaturization and complexity, a portable brass instrument about the size of a modern smartphone that could determine the time, date, and position of celestial bodies. The device functions as a multifunctional computer. It's simultaneously a sundial, a lunar calendar, a star chart, and a tide calculator. Users could adjust various dials and scales to account for their latitude and the time of year, then use the device to determine not just the hour of the day, but also the position of the moon, the timing of tides, and even astrologically significant star positions. What's remarkable is the mathematical sophistication embedded in this instrument. Creating accurate sundials requires understanding that the sun's path across the sky changes throughout the year. Ancient engineers had to account for the Earth's axial tilt, the varying length of days across seasons, and how these factors change depending on your latitude. They then had to translate all this complex mathematics into mechanical form, engraved scales, rotating dials, and moving pointers that could be manipulated by hand. Similar devices have been found across the Mediterranean world and the Middle East, suggesting that computational instruments were more common in antiquity than we typically imagine. Astrolabes, which became common in the Islamic Golden Age in medieval Europe, were descendants of these earlier traditions, sophisticated analog computers for solving astronomical problems. These devices reveal that ancient peoples didn't just observe the heavens. They developed precise mathematical models of celestial mechanics and created physical instruments to perform calculations based on those models. They understood concepts like spherical geometry, trigonometry, and coordinate systems, all incorporated into handheld brass instruments. Perhaps most importantly, these devices show that ancient technology wasn't limited to a single genius or location. Multiple cultures across centuries developed sophisticated computational tools, suggesting a continuity of knowledge and technique that challenges our narratives about dark ages and lost learning. These devices are proof that mathematical and astronomical knowledge was actively preserved, developed, and embodied in physical instruments throughout antiquity and the medieval period. Device number 5, the ancient Greek alarm clock. We complain about being woken by alarm clocks, but imagine the dedication required to be an ancient Greek philosopher who had to wake before dawn for morning lectures. Thankfully, they had a solution. Plato, the famous philosopher, reportedly used one of the world's first alarm clocks, a sophisticated water-based device created around 400 BCE. This wasn't a simple water clock. Many ancient civilizations used water clocks, clepsydry, to measure time by letting water drip from one container to another at a controlled rate. But Plato's alarm clock was far more ingenious. The device worked through a series of connected vessels. Water would drip slowly from an upper container into a middle container throughout the night. At a predetermined time, calculated by the volume of the middle container, it would become full and overflow. This overflow would push air through a pipe into a lower chamber containing water. The sudden air pressure would force water up through another pipe and into a chamber with small lead balls or pebbles. These would be pushed upward and would then cascade down through a funnel, creating a rattling noise that would wake the sleeper. Other designs use whistles. The water pressure would force air through a narrow opening, creating a sound similar to a tea kettle. Some versions reportedly use water pressure to sound pipes similar to organ pipes. What's sophisticated about this technology is the principle of programmable automation. The user could set their alarm by adjusting how much water was in the initial container, controlling exactly when the overflow would occur. This required precise understanding of water flow rates, volumes, and the pressure relationships between connected vessels. Greek engineers expanded on these principles to create all sorts of automated systems. They built water-powered automated theaters where puppet figures would perform scenes, musical instruments that played themselves when water flowed through them, and even automated bird figures that would chirp and move. These weren't isolated experiments. Water-powered automation became a significant field of engineering in the Hellenistic world. The knowledge was documented, taught, and passed down through generations. When we look at medieval Islamic engineers' works, like Al-Jazari's incredible automated machines from the 12th century, we're seeing the continuation of traditions that began with Greek engineers like Ctesibius, who invented the first documented alarm clock, and Hero of Alexandria. The ancient alarm clock demonstrates something important. Automation and programmable devices aren't modern concepts. Ancient peoples understood that you could design systems to perform actions automatically at predetermined times. They grasped the principles of mechanization, timing, and controlled sequences, all fundamental concepts in modern computing and robotics. Device number 6, the Roman Swiss Army knife, 23:00-26:30. Our final device might seem simple compared to astronomical computers and automatic doors, but reveals something equally important about ancient technology. Ancient peoples valued multifunction tools and sophisticated design just as much as we do. Discovered in the Mediterranean region and dating to around 200 CE, a Roman multi-tool currently housed in a museum contains a knife blade, a spoon, a fork, a toothpick, and a spike, all folding into a single silver handle, much like a modern Swiss Army knife. But the sophistication goes beyond mere multiple implements. The handle features intricate decorative work and precise pivot mechanisms that allow each tool to fold out independently. Creating such a device required advanced metalworking skills, the ability to create strong but small pivot pins, the knowledge of how to harden steel properly so blades will hold an edge, and the design expertise to make everything fit together in a compact, balanced package. Multiple similar devices have been discovered, suggesting these weren't one-off curiosities, but actual consumer products used by wealthy Romans. Some versions include more tools, spatulas, small saws, even tiny scissors. Each represents a miniature engineering challenge. How do you create multiple functional implements that share a common handle without interfering with each other? The Roman multi-tool reveals sophisticated consumer culture. Ancient Romans valued convenience, portability, and elegant design. They were willing to pay craftsmen to create complex custom tools that combine multiple functions. This reflects a society with specialized craftsmen, quality metallurgy, and consumers who appreciated innovative design. These tools also reveal something about ancient travel culture. A multi-tool is most useful when you're away from home, needing to be prepared for various tasks without carrying multiple items. Roman travelers apparently face the same challenges we do, wanting versatile tools that don't take up much space. While it might seem less impressive than an astronomical computer, the Roman multi-tool actually demonstrates how deeply technology penetrated ancient society. This was experimental technology locked away in temples or owned by philosophers. This was consumer technology that ordinary, albeit wealthy, people carried with them daily. It shows that practical, user-focused design has always been part of human innovation. So there you have it. 6 ancient devices that prove our ancestors were far more innovative, sophisticated, and technologically advanced than popular history suggests. From the Antikythera Mechanism's bronze gears calculating celestial positions 2,000 years ago, to the Baghdad battery's mysterious electrical potential, to Hero's automatic temple doors powered by fire and water, to Byzantine computational instruments, to Plato's water-powered alarm clock, to the Roman traveler's elegant multi-tool, each of these devices challenges our assumptions about the past. These inventions reveal several profound truths about human history. First, technological progress isn't always linear. Ancient peoples developed sophisticated technologies that were subsequently lost, only to be reinvented centuries or millennia later. The fall of Rome, the burning of libraries, wars, and cultural shifts caused knowledge to be lost and rediscovered repeatedly throughout history. Second, ancient peoples were just as intelligent and creative as we are today. They simply worked with different materials and different constraints. Given their resources, their achievements are arguably more impressive than ours. They created computational devices without electricity, automation without motors, and precision instruments without modern manufacturing. Third, we've likely only scratched the surface. Most ancient devices were made from materials that degrade: wood, leather, textiles, organic materials. What we see in museums represents only the tiniest fraction of ancient technology. The pieces lucky enough to be made from durable materials and lucky enough to survive. How many other innovations existed that left no trace? Finally, these devices should inspire humility. We often treat modern technology as proof of our superiority over our ancestors, but the reality is more complex. Ancient peoples solved problems creatively with the resources available to them. They combined observation, mathematics, engineering, and craftsmanship to create devices that still amaze us today. The next time you use your smartphone, walk through automatic doors, check your alarm clock, or pull out a multi-tool, remember, you're not experiencing anything fundamentally new. You're participating in traditions of innovation that stretch back thousands of years to clever engineers and craftsmen who looked at the world and asked, how can I make this better? Human ingenuity isn't modern, it's timeless. If you enjoyed this journey through ancient technology, hit that like button, subscribe for more fascinating historical content, and drop a comment telling me which ancient device impressed you most. And if you think your friends would enjoy having their minds blown by ancient engineering, share this video with them. Until next time, keep questioning what you think you know about the past, because history is always more amazing than we imagine. If you found this breakdown informative, don't forget to like the video. Share your thoughts in the comments and subscribe to Autotech Axis for more deep dives into future technologies, energy innovations, and disruptive ideas shaping our world. Your support helps the conversation grow.